1420 WEMB Sports Radio.
Tri-City Sports Now, Marky Billson, just going with rankings in college football. And I guess I could give you the AP rankings that came out here recently, but it does get a little bit boring to read off, number 1 is Clemson, number 2 is Alabama, which is what they are ranked at, yes, but, situation is Clemson's ranked ahead of Alabama. Why not? They've won the national title 2 or 3 years. They got Trevor Lawrence coming back. Why wouldn't you rank Clemson ahead of Alabama? What I do think is intriguing is that there are only 2 teams in the ACC that are in the top 20. I think that's a little low because I think the ACC is a good football conference. I think in 2016 it was a better football conference than the SEC. They had the national champ and they were 10-4 against the SEC in head-to-head competition. You tell me. Now maybe year in and year out that's not been the case. But yes, Big Ten, though, getting 7 in. I'm talk a little bit, including Nebraska, which, that's all Adrian Martinez. They were 4-8 last year. And, look, you had Caleb Calhoun on, so, I think Tennessee will be 7-5. Beat everybody, but Mississippi State, obviously Florida, obviously Alabama, obviously Georgia, Missouri. Missouri's supposed to be real good. Coaches, but when can we hear about Aubrey Solomon, and when can we hear about Missouri if they're going to be eligible for the SEC East or not? Because they got the appeals in, and really this is cramping the style of 2 teams, both the Volunteers and the Tigers. Missouri Tigers, as the case may be. A lot of Tigers out there, Princeton and LSU and Clemson and, Detroit, and a lot of Tigers out there, a lot of them. But, you look at this and you start saying, wait a minute here. Isn't it time, and we're 10 days before the start of the season, shouldn't the Missouri Tigers, who have a good team, Kelly Bryant, the quarterback, good O-line, shouldn't they know whether or not they can play for a conference title or not? Because although maybe they weren't getting a whole lot of love in the SEC preseason poll, you're not going to pick unless you're the biggest riverboat gambler in the world, and I guess Missouri is right there, on the Mississippi, maybe not Columbia, Missouri, but at least St. Louis. Unless you're the biggest riverboat gambler, you're not going to be picking, Missouri to beat out Georgia. Okay, I get that. But I'm telling you, they're a dark horse. And they're the first others receiving votes in the AP poll, and didn't get any in the coaches poll. But if they're off probation, then they get voted on in the coaches poll. So that goes. I just said this best 50 college football programs under 150 years that ESPN came out. Give you an example. Army. They got them 39. Absolutely. Yeah, Army. Come on. On, brave old Army team. On to the fray. I lost my voice in fray. I'm sorry. Fight on for victory, for that's the fearless Army way. By the way, Army got one of their players who was on the Eagles. You're supposed to have the 5-year commitment before you can play. They took 5 years out of Roger Staubach's career when he went to the Navy, right? He couldn't play for the Cowboys for 5 years. Alejandro Villanueva, the tackle for the Steelers, same thing, right? More contemporarily. Anyway, Army, though, is number 39. Absolutely. Blanchard, Davis, come on. This is one of the great programs. And for that matter, anybody's ever seen Newt Rockne All-American, gosh, Notre Dame's got to play the powerful Army team. How will they ever be able to take care of them? There's that new rule that we can throw the ball. Why, that'll make history, Rock. Cheer, cheer for old Notre Dame. You've seen that if you've seen Rockne All-America, okay, But they were playing Army. Team then of Dwight Eisenhower. They'd belong in the top 50 programs of all time. But do they really deserve to be behind Linfield? I don't know anything about Lynn. I do this for a living. Linfield number 35 program. Please. Attention data geeks. That's how they report this on. Linfield made this list. Who are they? Somebody is going to be, I'm from Linfield, and it's going to be like that Seinfeld episode where the guy on the subway does not want to hear that Ukraine is weak. But anyway, the simple reason that the Wildcats last year extended their streak of winning seasons to 63. Good for them, but I don't know if that's, they're playing the competition that even Army has over the years. In 1955, that was their last losing season. It says no one had heard of Elvis Presley. That blue suede shoes came around in 55 or so. I thought that was, anyway. Ad, the man's name is Ad. Rutschman won 3 NAIA Division II titles from 82 to 86. The NAIA Division II. I mean, so Westminster in New Wilmington, PA should be in here. Check them out. They're pretty good in NAIA Division II as well, and all this. He also led the baseball Wildcats to a national title in 71. See, again, this is Gene McMurray stuff. Gene McMurray, if you don't know, look at ETS, then see, East Tennessee State history. Gene McMurray, once upon a time, we're talking about before World War II, coached the football and the basketball team at the same time. That was not that uncommon in those two, but it wasn't really all that big time. And it's the same thing. I mean, can you really say these are the best college football programs over the last 150 years when, I'm trying to see somebody who didn't make it here. I don't know. Let's go with Northwestern. Just to treat, there's a program known for losing, right? 34 games in a row through the 70s and the 80s and all that. Not a really good, you wouldn't say Northwestern was a really good, but you know what? I could show you times where Northwestern was ranked number 1 in the country. Northwestern they were the first team to use the plastic football helmet. I mean, so if you want, and the thing is, they've been to the Rose Bowl twice, and that's beating out better competition in the Big Ten than what Linfield had to do in NAIA Division II. I am not saying they don't try hard. That's irrelevant. So, you're going to tell me Linfield belongs beneath Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, which, by the way, is 38th. No. Behind Army, really. Linfield is a better program than Army, historically, really. I'm sorry. No. Even some of the major programs, I'm not so. Texas A&M, 32. They haven't won a national title since 1939. But they're behind Wisconsin Whitewater. No. And so this is flawed. But the thing at Tennessee, number 14, I think tomorrow's Marky's monologue, I'm going to talk a little bit about 14, because I'm seeing all these rankings now. Start of the football season, you get these historical rankings, especially because it's the 150th anniversary of college football, of what was it? Princeton 6, Rutgers 4. Or did I get that score mixed up? 150. So we're seeing a lot of historical stuff, and I'm sorry, no, do not put in, do not say that North Dakota State is the 10th best program ever. We want to talk about, FCS, fine. And I'm the guy, by the way, who tells you should go out and support ETSU, that you should recognize them as a D1, and all of this. Yes, and you know what? They're going to get their heads handed to them by Vanderbilt at the end of the year. All right? I mean, it's the way it is. Maybe you would consider Vanderbilt, who prior to 1927 was pretty good, 50 best college football programs of all time, because they're on the same level. Yale, once upon a time, did play at that high level. Okay, so 150 years, absolutely they belong. Somebody like that. I mean, you want to talk about, Washington and Jefferson. They're D3 now. They once went to the Rose Bowl. You want to talk about things like, okay, historically, fine, but there you go. Sports Illustrated has come up with the best college football coaches in history. Let me get to this. Bear Bryant, number 1. All right. Nick Saban, number 2. It's the big thing now to take Saban over Bryant. I think you'll see that as time goes on and all this. I think also just the way that political correctness is right now. Bryant was a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and I've actually seen people that have called him out for that and so on. Newt Rockne, number 3. Yeah, the idea is that he's the coach that introduced the forward pass. That'll make history. Rock, cheer for old Notre Dame. Tom Osborne, number 4. Now that might be a bit high. Pop Warner, number 5. I do think that's high. Not knocking Pop Warner, but that also is an era in which at one time Warner coached 2 teams simultaneously. Yeah, check it out. Warner also didn't think that Jim Thorpe was going to be big enough to play. That's also true when he was at Carlisle School. That's a long time ago. But yeah, Pop Warner, and they give him credit for drawing up plays out of single and double wing formations that were caused on misdirection. I mean, the old single wing, you've seen the spinning, halfback takes it, spins around. You've seen that, and all that. So they do call it Pop Warner football. Bud Wilkinson, number 6. Woody Hayes, number 7. Eddie Robinson, who I might be inclined to vote number 1. Number 8. Amos Alonzo Stagg, former Chicago coach. At one time had more victories than anybody else. Number 9. And Bobby Bowden, number 10. You'll note no Joe Paterno. I wonder why. You'll also note no Bob Nealand. However, I do think that is legitimate. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I think that, first of all, Nealand, for instance, Tennessee fans love him, but I don't think that he was the innovator that some of these other coaches were. And he ran a single wing. Tennessee stayed in a single wing because it's what the general used until the 60s. How'd that do for him? That's number 1. The other is the threatening of Lindsey Nelson to castrate him if he dared say anything bad about his team. This was Lindsey Nelson who was tutoring the team. Bob Seifers told me himself specifically that he kept the team eligible and winning. So, yeah, nice way to go right there. Nice way to, handle an ally there, Bob Nealand. So that's why I wouldn't put him on there. And I stated I'd take his name off the stadium for that. Put Peyton Manning's on myself. You want to know and I've said that a million times. One guy I think maybe should be over there instead of Pop Warner, Jock Sutherland, who Nealand said was the greatest coach of that era. They call the single wing offense the Sutherland single wing. His won-loss record was 11-2. He, had Jewish players on his team prior to World War I. That was big. Won a ton of national championships. Pitt, when he was the coach there in the 30s, they were Alabama or Clemson today, and he was the first coach to go from college to the pros. Jock Sutherland.